So, today we're going to talk about Lana Del Rey. Lana has a fundamental issue of dealing and having to figure out how to deal with death and the grief that accompanies that, and how that fits into her notion of metaphysics in this universe. And that is displayed, here's her chart, that is primarily displayed through that Saturn retrograde on her south node in Scorpio in the first, where a fundamental, first Aries, core emotional Scorpio issue involving her ego orientation, south node, is having to reimagine what it means to die and what follows that, if anything. And this has actually become such a problem that it lies on the south node, and then it gets further involved because she has the moon in the ninth opposing Jupiter in the third. Jupiter's retrograde. The moon's in Leo, Jupiter's in Aquarius, and they're squaring the nodes. And that demonstrates that there's a fundamental blockage that she's encountered in trying to process that issue. She has to go about it differently, Jupiter retrograde, than ordinary, societal, Saturn retrograde functions have done so. Jupiter and then the moon in the ninth, that all implicates, and the Saturn, it all implicates religion. So this means that Lana needs to seek her answers from places that aren't religion. She's already realized that. She's had a hard time implementing that. She's tried to, but religion has had a stranglehold until fairly recently, and it still does have a stranglehold in many, many places around the world. But she picked a place to be born and raised where she might have that opportunity to contemplate reality from a different perspective. And that's really what she wants, is a different perspective, Jupiter retrograde. And that's why she went to school for metaphysics, because she wanted to see if there was a scientific way to process her issues with death, which occurred at a young age. And that's that first portion again. At a very young age, she realized that everyone around her that she loved would die. And how strange that seemed to her, that they would one day not be in that body. And thinking that it's strange is definitely something that will lead you to metaphysical contemplation. And she wants it to be scientific, which again would be that Jupiter in the third house retrograde in Aquarius. She wants her spirituality with a side of science. And that's actually the only way you can have your spirituality and actually have it accurate, is if you study science. You don't need to know the exact measurements of any one thing or the quadratic equation. What you need to do is study biology, chemistry, and the natural path that they lead you on into quantum physics, which is an Einsteinian one. So you'll work with relativity and do Einsteinian quantum physics, essentially all of which point back to the circle and the wave, and that being the exact structure of reality. And indeed, it is the exact structure of physical reality, which means that non-physical reality mirrors that. And in her search for a scientific definition, she has actually brought it to a focal point where it is actually part of her creative purpose of how she will self-actualize and integrate in this life, because she has Neptune in the second retrograde in Capricorn opposing her Sun in the eighth in Cancer and her Mars in the eighth in Cancer. And that makes it a karmic thing and an issue of primary importance in her life is to seek spiritual definition in a different way. And that means metaphysics through science, to realize what the structure of existence is, and why death, and what is death, and why we seem to somehow transition out of this life and go elsewhere, and where do we go, and do we exist after that? And these are all the very big questions that she was born asking. She has Pluto in the 12th and retrograde in Scorpio. She wants the core of anything. She wants to get at the core of the point and purpose and structure of existence, and that's how she's geared. And as long as she serves with humility, she will achieve that, I think, because she has Venus, the ruler of the North Node, conjunct the North Node. The North Node is in the 7th, and Venus is in the 6th. They're right on her descendant. So in order to truly seek a spiritual journey, you have to divorce yourself from mundane possessions and ordinary desires of reality to achieve fame and fortune. Money has to become unimportant, and you do need to learn on how to rely only upon yourself within the environment, and then to reach a point of contemplation where you have an epiphany about what the structure of the universe is. I could tell you about my epiphanies and all the work I've done all day long, and it's not going to make you realize what the point and purpose of the universe is truly on the deepest and most fundamental level. Only you and your contemplation can do that. So you have to put it all together just as everyone else does. You reach the same conclusion, but it doesn't really matter what path you take as long as it's a path of symbiosis and interdependence, because those are laws of the physical universe, and these are the laws that we will use to get at the reality of metaphysics, okay? So first, when we're talking about death, this is the first thing that I've always ever used to reassure anyone. Have you ever had a dream? And in that dream, have you ever experienced things that come back as memories when you wake up? Okay, so I'm going with yes, you have. So having had that experience, were you in a body when you were having that experience?
Wow.
Of course not. So, can you exist without a body? Sure you can. And what does that say about the nature of physical and non-physical reality? It says there is non-physical reality. Of course there's non-physical reality. You have a mind, you think thoughts, you have emotions, and then of course you have dreams. So this proves that there is a non-physical side. Psychology being that kind of science that helps you to stretch from the biology of it and the physics of it to the emotion of it. And the emotion actually leads you back to the metaphysical plane and how it is that you'll process the appearance of death. So we know that death must only be an appearance because of the laws of thermodynamics, where they say that energy can neither be created nor destroyed. People get hung up on that. People get confused. They say it dissipates. We don't know where it goes. That's wrong. You loop it right back around. Thermodynamics is a part of the constant recycling return of the universe that maintains a level or homeostasis. So, in thermodynamics, you begin with potential energy. That energy, which is never seen, is only manifest through physical motion into kinetic energy, and then it goes through the entire cycle of movement until it reaches the end where it dissipates as heat. And this is where you need to tie it back in. That heat returns to potential energy to be reborn once again as kinetic and do that cycle endlessly over and over and over and over and over and over. That's why the universe is constant and recycling. Now you simply apply that same law to your soul, which is energy. You can prove that because you lose just a little bit of weight when at that moment that you die, and one can say that that's the light leaving your eyes. That's the energy that animated you going elsewhere, right? Elsewhere, that definition is kind of loose when it comes to metaphysics. Elsewhere could be anywhere. Elsewhere could be allwheres. Elsewhere could be deep in the nowheres. I mean, it's metaphysics we're talking about. It's every possibility that isn't present on the physical plane. And you essentially apply that law of thermodynamics to the individuated animation that is your soul energy, and that has gone from potential to the level of layer that you're at now. Because of that law of thermodynamics, you know that you cannot lose that individuality. It's going to constantly recycle into form after form after form after form because it's needed to animate. It's either that or else you come into this life and some people just know more, some people just do more. And that seems fundamentally unfair and out of whack with the laws of the universe, which dictate that everything is interdependent, symbiotic, and is always seeking to achieve homeostasis. That indicates there's a fundamental fairness about the universe that would eliminate the notion of YOLO. And some people are just better at it than others. No, you get, like the horrible remake of The Wheel of Time says, you have all these lives to try again and again and maybe do a little better next time and a little better than that and a little better than that until eventually you do remember all your past lives. You're born knowing all the ones that relate to this one. And that is your reassurance that death is only an appearance, that constant recycling of energy, and the internal knowledge that your individual animated energy is indestructible, as you know from dreams. Dreams are the proof that bridges the gap between science and metaphysics. All right, so now having said that, I would love if Lana could hear that. I think it might help her a bit. Hopefully she will come to this realization just simply through, us vibing it at her, right? This would help her a lot with her issues with depression and anxiety. She has some severe issues with depression with that Saturn on the South Node retrograde. And anxiety, of course, being driven by the Neptune opposing her Mars and her Sun. It's a very nebulous feeling of anxiety. I don't know why, it just is. And I feel very scared and like a tiny little tiny thing. And I don't feel safe unless I have some friends or a community around me. And this is all because society is very unnatural. So as a patriarchy, it doesn't provide for an understanding of a proper path of reincarnation that would allow you to, breathe a sigh of relief and say, I'm going to get another chance. I'm going to see these people again. I'm going to see them when I'm not in a body. I can see them when I'm dreaming. I can always see them. They can always be there. That's the power of resonance. If you think something is so internally, then it is so. It is a positive thing and a negative thing. The positive is if you think that you can be calm, then you can be calm. The negative is if you think that your muscles are hurting because you're in psychic pain, you develop conversion disorder, where you start to feel your psychic pain in your body. That's not positive. So, but you could use it for positive, where you can remember a sense of relaxation and then use that to actually become relaxed in the moment. So the mind is a powerful thing, and it can think you into a state of anything. You can think yourself into a state of calm, of anxiety, of any one thing. And the power of your mind is what actually gets you through this and into the notion of exactly how it is you're going to process death within life, because that is the ultimate paradox. Now, we're going to move on to a tarot reading for Lana, and we're going to see what her future spiritual path is, what path she's going to take, how she's going to progress within this life. So I'll be back in a moment. I got an image of fairies. Image of a cute little animated kid and a panda bear. Okay. Let's see. This is going to be one of those long, complicated ones that we're going to have to, because it was not a yes or no question. Ooh, she got so many backwards cards. That's because she has so many retrograde planets. Oof. Oh, that's the letting go of the grief. I see. She has a good deal of strength, yes. The money. There's the grief again. And the choice she has to make. As to what I said about money and possessions. There we go. The true wealth is that of spirituality and not that of actual cash. So here's the reading. All right, you can take a look at that and see that the first card is actually the Queen of Cups. It is reversed. A lot of this is reversed. So the Queen of Cups is her, I would say. She is a bit depressive, but she's been a lot happier lately as she's gotten older, so that's a good thing. She has to take a leap of faith. She's been avoiding that. Because she's worried it will depress her further and further her anxiety. But as you can see from the Two of Wands crossed over the Strength card, yeah, she's got the capacity to do this, to go out and journey, as I said, to not have things and journey to find your true strength, the strength at the core of you that you have. You have to give everything up and really basically go out with your two bare hands and see if you can survive in the environment. And then once you do that, it's cemented in you, this truth that you have, that you are absolutely capable of sustaining yourself no matter what. And that is an absolute necessary part of a spiritual journey, and one that most people don't want to engage in because it's difficult. You have to give lots of stuff up, lots of stuff up. I've done it in this lifetime, so I do know the truth of that. I wanted desperately to be on a spiritual path more than anything else, and that's what mattered more than anything else. So that's why I did what I did. And it was worth it in the sense that I am absolutely certain of my capacity to rely upon myself and my own metaphysical knowledge of how the universe works. I am cemented in that. I'm not scared of death. I am perfectly calm and restful within all of that knowledge. And that's what Lana really wants to get. And then you can see she's afraid to give up her money with the King of Pentacles reversed, and then that Nine of Swords above it. She's worried about how sad it will make her. It's a choice she eventually will have to make, to give up all that money and all that fame to achieve spiritual riches. It's not, it's a different sort of reward. And in the end, it's the only reward that is worth looking for, because it's the only one that you can take with you when you die. So there we go, right back around to it. If you want to be happy when you die, you have to be prepared for death. And in order to prepare for death, you have to learn to not want the things in life, so that you're always ready for that moment when it comes, whenever it comes, without fear, and only with the regret that you are leaving behind, in some ways, people who are still in bodies, but you're not. You can always go see them. It's all in what you think it is after you die, and there are inherently an enormous amount of possibilities for you then. So, I hope that this was a helpful discussion, even if it was a painful one. I wish you all much luck in your own spiritual journeys. Peace.